my audience is not everybody. I mean, I have to also realize that I'm writing to a very specific audience. And if 3 people read it, and those are the 3 decision makers, potential buyers of my services, then that's fantastic.
Hello, everyone. It is Lee McKnight. I'm the VP of Sales for RSW US. We're an outsourced business development group for ad agencies and PR firms of all types, and this is Cut to the Chase. It's the RSW US interview series that delivers impactful views from ad agency principals and business development leaders on growth strategies and the challenges that come with it in today's weird, evolving landscape. And I have with us today Cheryl Bame. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You are the principal and founder of Bame Public Relations in Los Angeles, California. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Different than Cincinnati, Ohio, I hear. Pretty sure.
A little bit.
And before we start, we have a little tradition. I'm springing this on you. It's a little icebreaker. And I'm going to ask the question now. There won't be any other surprises, by the way. But would you rather step into the ring with 1974 Muhammed Ali or answer an RFP?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough
one. To be your reaction.
Yeah, no, I don't love responding to RFPs. But I also don't want to get knocked out. So
fair.
It's safer.
Not that you couldn't
physically and mentally to respond to an RFP.
Okay. That's what I think now we're up to only 3 have ever said yes, but it depends on what I'm asking, obviously. Physical harm can obviously play something in there, but we'll tell us in all seriousness now. Tell us just a little bit about, before we get into the questions about you, because that's what I want to do. But the firm itself, for folks watching, briefly, tell us just what you focus on and type of firm.
Yes, I started Bame Public Relations in 2005 at the suggestion of my mentor and former boss who was retiring.
Okay.
And he gave me the opportunity to start my own firm. And I actually went and looked at other agencies and said, well, let me take my book of business, because my former boss said, take the clients you're working with and go someplace else.
Yeah, okay.
So I was looking at that, but other agencies weren't going to pay me what I knew I was worth, because I felt like I was a rainmaker. Nice. And they weren't going to pay me for my book of business. So a month before he was shutting down the office, Tom said to me, why just go open an agency? And I did. Okay. And that was in 2005. And at the time, most of my work was focused on the legal industry and some real estate development. And then we know what happened in 2008. So I doubled down on working with the legal industry just because I was really well known. I had invested a lot of time in the Legal Marketing Association, volunteering, being a leader, which is where I built my firm. So that's really what we focus on now. Is it's 100% legal.
Okay, yeah.
So I say all lawyers all the time.
And this is one of the few times a year. So I actually graduated from law school. And then ran away as far as I could. And this is not about me, but yeah, I thought I was going to be, I'm from Nashville. I was going to go back and do music law. I loved law school, but just figured it wasn't for me. So that was another reason why I wanted to get you on the show, because I thought it'd be pretty cool. But let's rewind a little bit. And as I said, talk about you, because you actually started as a reporter. Is that correct?
Correct. I knew from an early age that I wanted to be a reporter. Nice. And I set I did. And I set my educational path in that way. I went to the University of Arizona journalism school when they had a separate journalism school at the time. Okay. And I got a job at the Yuma Daily Sun right after I graduated, but I always knew I wanted to do TV.
Nice.
So I interned at stations in Los Angeles and eventually got jobs, and then went on air at a couple markets. And in 2000, I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. Really? I wasn't making a lot of money. I was living in Toledo, Ohio, where actually I have.
We're in Cincinnati. There you go. We don't talk about Toledo.
I do have I know I have Ohio connection. A lot of my family went to Ohio State.
Okay.
So Yeah, so I do have a connection to Ohio, but I'm from Southern California, and I wanted to move back. And
Yeah.
I was a medical reporter actually. So I was doing work with hospitals and doctors initially. So I was doing some B2C, B2B PR, but when I started at the last agency I was at, it was basically just real estate and law.
Okay.
And yeah, that's where I joined the Legal Marketing Association and built my reputation in the legal industry is how I built my business.
Okay. So then you got into the next question I was going to have, because what I couldn't see in that thread, because it's a LinkedIn profile, but I mean, you look at yourself today in the firm and you are steeped, and and we're going to talk about that specialization, because I am a big fan of that, niching down. You don't have to do it. Plenty of agencies and firms don't, but when you do, the ability to show that expertise and that messaging can get so precise that personally, I love it. But so that's the answer then, is in terms of how you got in the legal profession, was just that in that particular agency, that's what they were going after as part of the outreach.
Yeah, it's our calling card with law firms and the work that we do is the fact that we just know the industry, we understand. Sure. With working with law firms and lawyers, client confidentiality and conflicts are a huge part of it. We turn down more opportunities, I would say media opportunities for our clients than we take because of those conflicts. And you have to realize that their client relationships it's how they build their businesses. So while you want to be on the homepage of the Wall Street Journal website, losing a client, it's not worth it. Right. So we understand that. We also do a litigation PR. We help the client, counsel our clients on other reputation strategies. So there is an advantage to being in the industry. Plus, I'm boutique, so I can only spread myself so much. And I think that you just have to be well known in an industry to get business. Yeah. Because I could spread myself to a variety of industries, but I just wouldn't be well known. I wouldn't have that reputation that I have in the legal industry. And so I'm lucky. I've been doing it a long time. I really enjoy it. I'm passionate about my clients. I love the work. So I do business development for my agency, but I also do the client relations. I do the media relations. I, counsel our clients on anything from LinkedIn, social media, to media relations, crisis. So I do everything. So I only have so much time.
Right.
And
when you sleep,
work. It's something really important for agency owners to understand. Right. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this or listening to this understand that there's only so much time you have in the day. And so you just can't be everywhere at once, and you can't be all things to all people, especially as a boutique agency. The larger agencies, obviously they have, people in different verticals and they can spread their wings. Sure. But I realized early on, I just don't have enough time to do it all. No. As much as I love networking and being involved, there's only so much time I have. So I stuck with legal and it works. But I have taken other clients where a law firm will call me and say, "Oh, I have a client in the food and beverage industry." And I was like, "Oh, really? That sounds like an interesting project." And then I thought, my gut, I also learned long ago, you have to listen to your gut. And if your gut's telling you, don't take the work.
Fair. I mean, that's such a great point. And we counsel that with agencies, whether they're our clients or not, is like know when to walk away, know when to say no. And you're not always in that place where you can, which is not fun, but to be in that place, because not everything's going to be the fit. And you should listen to your gut, because in that sense, you're going to be happier in the long run and make more money.
Absolutely.
Let me ask real quick, do you specialize, I think I already know the answer, but for folks watching, in any type of law firm, legal, like vertical, sub-vertical, if you will, or size of firm, or is it across the board?
It's across the board. We worked with plaintiffs firms, family law firms, matrimonial attorneys, criminal defense. But most of our clients right now are defense firms, business defense firms. So if either the plaintiff, the business is suing another business or an entity, or they're being sued, deal lawyers, every kind of law, which makes it interesting because a lot of my friends who are in other industries are like, how do you manage that all? Because we work with clients across the United States and mostly United States, a domestic PR. And then but we have to have our finger in like every industry. So a client recently said, can you help us with a real estate deal? And then another client said, will you send us a list of publications that take byline articles in the wellness industry?
Cool.
And then we deal with litigation. So we have to be on top of everything that is going on in business across the board. So we're reading every possible business outlet, talking to reporters in every industry, because they're all looking for legal experts.
Yeah, and I think that plays into our latest report, not to make this about us at all, but it does, in the sense of one of the biggest things that when this particular survey interviewed marketers as well as agencies, and they said the biggest reason why we review new agencies or leave the ones we have or PR firms is the lack of proactivity and the lack of expertise, not just being order takers, but to your point, being the experts in that field or vertical or the industry itself, and just doing more than just, even though that's hard, you have to do the work, but going above and beyond to be able to inform them, to make them smarter or better at what they're doing is only going to help.
Well, law firms and lawyers have the same challenge. Their clients hire them because they want not just the legal advice, but they want that industry expertise. They want, you understand our industry, you understand our challenges, you know how to help us solve our problems. Well, it's the same thing with law firms. I don't consider myself a publicist for a law firm. I balk at that. I'm a communications counselor because there's so many issues. It's not just getting publicity and getting attorneys' names everywhere, because not everybody hires a business defense attorney. The public isn't really hiring them unless they're a business owner or they're an executive in a corporation. So our clients want to be in the right publications at the right time so that they can get hired. It's not just getting their name out there.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I wanted to get into one of your expertise, and what's so important is showing that expertise in terms of prospects in our world, certainly, and your clients, of course. But PR firms and agencies, generally, it's an ongoing struggle, not only with specialization, how far should we go? Some are pretty trepidatious to do what you're doing and focus so solely on the one vertical, if you will, but also just consistently showing to prospects, as I said, in a meaningful and useful way. And you've really embraced that. So I think folks watching, if you want some good examples, because consistently it's agencies or firms are like, yeah, but what should we be doing? Let's kick off here. So you founded and led the first public relations special interest group, which is SIG. And then was it Precon for the Legal Marketing Association? I assume that was purposeful just in the sense of you're pretty passionate about it, but also in terms of just bringing in new business. I assume that has to be helpful as well, just from the networking perspective.
Absolutely. When the Legal Marketing Association had chapters, I was president of the LA chapter back in 2004. And I started my business in 2005. So I already had a built-in network. Not only did I have a book of business, but I already started building my reputation in the legal industry at that time. And then I'm just somebody who volunteers. I say yes to everything. So when somebody says, would you like to do this? I'm like, sure, absolutely. And they'll get to our other point. You're like, why I took a break. But I said yes to everything, and I don't regret it. It's just nature of who I am. I love to volunteer. I love to contribute.
Awesome.
I love to mentor. So that's where I started my volunteer path in the agency, in the organization. And I'm a huge fan. You can't just be a member. And I say, consult my clients this all the time. You can't just be a member and say, I'm a member, and put it on your bio, on your LinkedIn profile. It's like, you have to get involved. You have to build a reputation. You have to be known. So it's like the know, like, and trust. It's like, I'm not, just because I sponsor and have my logo up on a website doesn't mean I'm going to get hired.
Yeah.
People want to hire people they know.
Sure.
And so they get to know. And so there's a lot to, getting hired. It's not just, I've heard of them, but it's like, does anybody know them? Does anybody use them? What's their reputation? So building that reputation was me volunteering and showing up. And it's not just volunteering, but it's actually showing up, doing the work. Doing the work, because there are a lot of people who say, well, I want to volunteer, and then they just bail. And it's like, well, what does that say about your reputation as to you'll take a volunteer job and then decide not to follow through with your commitment.
True.
So it's something that's really important to me, and building my reputation, showing up as somebody who will follow through with their commitments, delivering value, even though I wasn't being paid in any of those opportunities. I wanted, that was just who I was. Yeah. And so that's how I built my reputation. But yes, I helped start what they call the SIGs, the Legal Marketing Association Communication SIG, because PRSA and PR schools don't promote professional services PR. It's unfortunate, but they don't.
I did not know that.
A lot of people, I still get the question, like, you work with law firms, what do you do for them? And we do everything that a normal corporation would want. I mean, we're not as engaged in social media because our clients aren't necessarily on TikTok,
right?
Or necessarily on Facebook. But I would say we do traditional communications. We write news releases. We help with social media postings. We are on LinkedIn. I mean, there's a lot that we do because law firms are a business. In fact, they're very profitable businesses.
Sure.
And so having marketing, business development, and communications counsel, either internally or externally or both, is very important. The other thing that's important for law firms and lawyers specifically are nominations. We do a lot of nominations for them, for editorial nominations, because like the business journals, the legal journals, they all have nomination opportunities, and lawyers like to be recognized.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think taking it a step further, and I'm starting to wonder how you did all these things, but then you also have been the editor of the Legal PR blog since 2010, correct?
Yeah, I started a blog when blogs became popular, and I felt like I had a lot that I wanted to say and contribute. And I struggled with it because I was the only one writing. I didn't require anybody else in my agency to write, and so writing. And then I thought, I'm not really sure if I have anything else I want to say. And a lot of things that I want to say, I'm a consultant. I didn't want people to be turned off by, a lot of my opinions, because I have some strong opinions about the media, about the way business is going. So I thought, let me take a break on it. Plus COVID hit, and I was like, let's take a break. But then I realized LinkedIn is a really great platform, and it really was going to reach my direct audience. My audience is not everybody. I mean, I have to also realize that I'm writing to a very specific audience. And if the people read it, and those are the 3 decision makers, potential buyers of my services, then that's fantastic. I don't worry about likes, comments. I know the strategies to generate that type of response to my post, but for me, I contribute the same way I volunteer with Legal Marketing Association, because I feel like I have something to say. I like to engage people. I do use it as a business development tool for sure. And I do have a premium subscription so that I can reach out to people directly and make connections. So, and I do a lot of counsel on LinkedIn. So it's important for me to be there.
I think it's a great, I really want agencies and firms that are watching to understand, because I think they beat themselves up sometimes where they'll get going on content. I mean, and I strongly encourage, if you're wondering how to ongoing write a good blog and content, go, and we'll have a link in the description. Go to the Legal PR blog, because it is just straight thought leadership. It is very good. And yes, I noticed that around 19, you had tapered off, and that's why I wanted to put you in the hot seat a little bit. But you know what? Also, so glad you brought up LinkedIn, because I was going to, and that is, if you're at a firm, you're at an agency, and that's just going to be, it's hard to do, especially when you're boutique. Go take that to LinkedIn, because, and I encourage folks to go to your LinkedIn page. You'll also have a link there, because you're writing the same type of long form thought leadership driven pieces. They're really good. And you can tell, I mean, you have a specific audience that's going to read that, and it's going to be incredibly informative. So I just want to make sure firms and agencies understand that you don't have to have the blog. If it's just more work than it needs to be. Plus, it's tougher to get people. You can't just write it and they will come. Now, in your case, maybe you did it for long enough and you're well known in the industry. They probably did come. But for most agencies and firms, they don't have necessarily what you had out of the gate. And so you have to get it into their lap. And with LinkedIn, to your point, you already have a built-in audience typically. We've all been on LinkedIn for a while now. And so they have the tools there, to your point. Again, where it almost makes more sense these days to put it on LinkedIn. Like we do both, but LinkedIn is certainly a tool for us that we use it the same way you do. So I was going to say, I think that's great to see that you're still active. You've just moved on to a different platform. But I'm glad you cut that up though, the legal PR blog, because it is very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And so in terms of content, I'm going to keep going. And again, because you keep doing things, it's great to see that you're also speaking at conferences. You're taking part in webinars, and folks will, if they go to your LinkedIn, they'll see that in your thread. That also, I assume, is a purposeful strategy. I know you can probably only do so many of those in a given quarter or year, but tell me about that. Are folks at this stage often pursuing you to take part in those? Are you reaching out, or is it kind of a mix of both? Or
it's a combination. Okay. You have to be opportunistic, so you have to either take an opportunity that somebody presents to you or create your own. Which is, I want to go back to the Legal Marketing Association and what the PR communications pre-con. Every year at the annual conference, which is the international conference, they have a pre-conference. And I recognized years ago when I was looking at the content that there wasn't a lot of communications content. So a friend of mine and I reached out to the leaders of it and said, you need to put together something for the communications professionals, because really everything that we do for law firms with the marketing business development, it's all about communications.
Okay. Yeah.
So they said, that's great. And we proposed a all-day conference, and they said, well, how about we tack it on to the annual conference? So every year we put together this pre-con, and I led the first one and then dropped out and let my co-chair do the second one. But I spoke at it, and actually last year's conference, 2023, I organized it again because they call me up and they say, would you like to do this? And I'm like, sure. Like I always say yes. And so I put together that year, actually 2023, I put together not just the pre-conference for the annual conference, but I put together a series of communications clinics, which were webinars that were done nationally, because I think that it's unfortunate, but in the legal industry, the communications professionals sometimes get left out. That's where I say, like, why I'm not a member of PRSA, because most of it's very consumer focused. And I think if you do public relations for law firms or any of the professional services, a lot of the stuff that they discuss or strategies, information that's presented at PRSA is not directed towards us.
Okay.
So I wanted to advance, when I say in my bio, I want to advance the communications practice for law firms. And so that was one way for me to contribute to do that.
That's excellent. Yeah. And again, not that you were doing it specifically for business development, but those things, I try to do the same. And it's interesting because I tend to say yes too. I'm not nearly as active as you are, but you're right. I mean, and sometimes with those yeses, they become bigger opportunities than you realize. So I tend to go that way as well.
No, it's just in me to volunteer. And like I said, I want to give back. I feel very grateful for the success that I have. And so I feel like I want to give back. But it's just who I am.
Yeah.
And I
love it.
I love to network. But you're right. It is part of my business development strategy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go back, as you mentioned, and let's on maybe a more personal note, because all these things that we've talked about that you're doing and doing well for the firm and in terms of career. But let's go back to that volunteer piece, because there's a LinkedIn post that was pretty heartfelt, and I wanted to ask you about it, and that you, as you said, have been an incredibly active volunteer in multiple organizations, completely apart from legal, and decided to take a step back here in 24, which I guess had to be hard.
Yes, it was. I was involved in the Legal Marketing Association Western Conference Board for 4 years. I volunteered twice for two-year stints. Wow. And then I was on the executive committee of the Ronald McDonald House. I believe that we should all give back to a charity, whether financially or time-wise.
Yeah.
And I was on that board for 6 years.
Wow.
And then I was involved, I've been a member of PRBI for many years. And then I decided to say yes to an opportunity to be on the executive committee. Okay. And I did that for 6 years. So, and last year I was burnt out. I admitted to myself, I was tired. I was definitely contributing to all of the roles that I have, but I gave myself an option of opting out. And so I said, I need a refresh.
Yeah.
I want to do some other things, and what those other things I don't know are yet. In fact, it was funny. A friend of mine who's going to be president of the LM Legal Marketing Association, I was joking with him. I'm like, I've got nothing to do. I said, do you need my help? And he's like, I might need your help. So I might end up announcing a volunteer.
I was going to say,
role.
Be careful because you're going to get pulled back in.
I know, but I decided it's not official yet, so I'm not going to say anything, but I gave myself the opportunity to take a break, and it was really hard. This is the first year that I've never volunteered for anything.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm grateful for it. It gives me opportunity to do other things, including more business development, going to clients, because I'm not beholden to the 7 a.m., 8 a.m., or 3 or 4 p.m. Zoom with any of the committees that I'm on or the boards I'm on. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's another great example for folks watching. I mean, you can only do so much, and if you've got to take a break and replenish, for lack of a better word, you need to do it. But I know, I mean, it seems like we don't know each other, but it seems like you're the type of person, like with that energy, I can tell that you were thriving under that. I'm sure probably no one could tell that you were a little burnt out, but yeah, you have to take those pauses sometimes. So I think that's another great takeaway. I hope for folks watching is sometimes you need to do it. Maybe for not very long, but that's fantastic. And I wanted for the last question, when folks see that LinkedIn post, I was also intrigued by the picture because you're in the ring, no gloves on, as I recall, I think. But I wanted to ask about that. And so that's why the Muhammad Ali reference at the beginning. But part of what you are doing there in your off time or whatever you are is boxing, correct?
Right. I love fitness and love wellness, which brought me to why I was a medical journalist when I did that, and then started doing PR for doctors and hospitals. And I'm still interested in wellness and fitness. And I've been boxing with a private coach since 2017.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It's not full time and it's not a job.
Yeah.
But I just love the sport. My dad introduced me to the sport years ago, and I've been to live fights. I find the sport of boxing really interesting. It's a very hard workout. I recognize and appreciate professional boxers for what they do. And I just enjoy it. It's physically demanding and also mentally demanding.
I can imagine.
And I find the sport just really interesting because you're constantly learning. There's no end game. So I'm always learning something new, and it's definitely challenging. I'm very sweating at the end.
Yeah.
But it's something that I just love, and I've been doing it at 3:00 on Wednesdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays for the last few years. So it's something I enjoy. But you saw me, I was shadow boxing because the gym that I go to, which is like a traditional boxing gritty gym, has a ring, and so my coach will take me there. So you saw the picture of me shadow boxing. I was warming up for my session.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
So cool. Cheryl Bame, thank you so much for being on the interview series. It's great to have you on, and I think folks will get a lot from it. I really appreciate it.
Terrific. Thank you.
Cheryl.